thank you. You know, excuse me. Troy, it's good to hear that I'm not the only one who never turns in their stuff on time. Let me tell you. I've not written my annual report yet. So, just know that. I finished my newsletter article for January 1st last night at 8 o'clock. So, what does that tell you? I'm going to tell you about one of my favorite New Year's that I don't know favorite, but one of the most memorable New Year's that I ever had. It was about 11 years ago, and I had asked Katie to marry me on the New Year's Eve. You know, I did the whole, don't want to spend another year without you, blah, blah, blah. You know, I made it sound nice. You know, and of course, you know, I had it all set up. You know, we went somewhere. By the time I got home, like, everything had fallen. But anyway, and I think I actually had candles lit for about 4 hours while I was away. Not the smartest thing. I'm not a good. But so we go, and so it's New Year's Eve. She said yes after much convincing. And so we're going to her parents' house on New Year's Day. And we live in Oklahoma City, so we're driving down I-40 to Dewar, Oklahoma, and Dewar, America. That's right. And so we're on I-40, and I get pulled over by a cop. And I'm like, oh, man. So, you know, I'd pull over and, you know, I was always taught, you know, you just said you're never going to get out of a ticket if you're hateful to a cop. So your best chance is to be respectful and maybe you'll get out of a ticket. So, but let's be honest, like, as soon as you never think you're really going to get out of the ticket. So, you know what I mean? You never really do. And so I'm going and he said, hey, I don't remember, probably speeding, I'm sure as well. Got pulled over. And he says, you know, where are you going? And I said, going to my fiance's parents' house, my future in-laws. We just got engaged. You know, you're trying to really lay it on to get out of this ticket. You know what I mean? You're trying to make the cop feel bad for giving you a ticket, right? And so it was okay. So he takes my license and he takes my registration. And, you know, of course, it's that moment, if you've ever been pulled over, the cop is doing whatever he does, and you're in the car, and you're just waiting. And you're waiting. You know, and Katie's yelling at me for speeding and all sorts of stuff. And so he comes back, you know, the moment of truth. He hands me my license, and he hands me my registration, and he tells me this. No person should have to see their in-laws and get a ticket on the same day. Slow down. I hope you have a merry. That's a true story. I hope you have a happy New Year. So that was how my New Year started 10, 11 years ago. You know, and it got me thinking about some things. And then, you know, of course, you know, I wouldn't change my story at all because that's the reason why I got out of the ticket. But, you know, it got me thinking, what are things in my life that maybe if I had a chance to do again, I would do again. And it got me thinking, first is when I was a kid, me and my brother played baseball. We played wiffle ball. We decided to play with rocks one time. And that quickly stopped when I pitched it and my brother hit me right in the head. And it really probably didn't hurt as bad as I let on to my parents. I just wanted my brother to get in trouble. So now, you know, I don't think I ever would have tried salad for the first time in my life. Because then I would at least have the opportunity to say, you know, I wouldn't be so against it, I guess you would say, because that is the worst thing you could ever put inside your mouth. But anyway, I would never have cheated in my mom's class. I cheated once only. And I'm serious, and it's not, and I'd love to say it because I'm this nice, upstanding guy. Because I got caught once, and I got caught in my mom's class. I'll never forget, the principal had to talk to her, like, right outside her class. And I turned in my paper on the desk, and I saw a kid smarter than me, had a different answer, and I went to erase it, and I looked up, and it's like this, you know, the stare. We all heard of the stare, the mom stare. And you just know that this is about to be the worst day in your life. And so I never once cheated on a test again after that. I can say that. And then, of course, I would change when I I did drop Noah on his head one time when he was like 3 days old. But anyway, but yeah. So anyway, so those are things in life that if I could go back, I would change, right? I mean, I would maybe try to be a little more careful, and it got me thinking about, this new year, and I think we all have things that maybe that if we could go back, we would change. That maybe if we had just one more shot, we would change. And maybe you don't have to look back very far in your life to think of that one thing. And this morning you need to know this, is you do have the chance to change whatever has happened in your life. There is restoration in Jesus Christ that He brings, and He brings it openly, and He'll bring it honestly, and He wants you to know that you can have it. Kurt Warner, I grew up in the St. Louis area. Kurt Warner was the most popular athlete in the St. Louis area. I'm not even kidding. With the day he got traded, the backup quarterback got hate mail from people in St. Louis and it had nothing to do with him. I mean, Kurt Warner was the most beloved athlete in St. Louis. And if you know his story at all, he kind of went from being in the Arena League, bagging groceries, to backup quarterback. The year that the Rams won the Super Bowl, our starting quarterback got hurt in the preseason, and Kurt Warner stepped in, ended up having an MVP year, won the Super Bowl, and won the Super Bowl MVP. And he just literally, the city of St. Louis loved him. And then he got traded to the Giants. And then he had a Giants, he never could really find his groove with the Giants. He ended up getting traded again to the Cardinals. And there he would go and he never did win MVP, but I think he was second or third in the MVP voting. Led his team to the Super Bowl, was one play literally away from a lucky catch by a Steelers wide receiver of winning another Super Bowl. So Kurt Warner had that opportunity in his life. He gets out what a lot of football players don't get, and that's another opportunity. It's another opportunity to make right maybe what he couldn't, what he messed up. And this morning we're going to talk about two individuals. We're going to talk about two individuals who needed restoration in their life. They needed that other opportunity in their life to come to them. And they knew that the only way that they could get it is if they fell to Jesus' feet. Otherwise, there was no other hope. There was no other way. But let's read the story first. Luke 8:40-56 says this: on the other side of the lake, crowds welcomed Jesus because they had been waiting for him. Then a man named Jairus, the leader of the local synagogue, came and fell at Jesus' feet, pleading with him to come home with him. His only daughter, who was 12 years old, was dying. As Jesus went with him, he was surrounded by the crowds. A woman in the crowd had suffered from 12 years with constant bleeding, and she could find no cure. Coming up behind Jesus, she touched the fringe of his robe. Immediately, the bleeding stopped. "Who touched me?" Jesus asked. Everyone denied it, and Peter said, "Master, this whole crowd is pressing up against you." But Jesus said, "Someone deliberately touched me, for I felt healing power go out of me." When the woman realized that she could not stay hidden, she began to tremble and fell to her knees before him. The whole crowd heard her explain why she had touched him and that she had been immediately healed. "Daughter," he said, "your faith has made you well. Go in peace." While he was still speaking to her, a messenger arrived from the home of Jairus, the leader of the synagogue. He told him, "Your daughter's dead. There's no use anymore. There's no use troubling teacher." What he said, "There's no point anymore. There's no point." But when Jesus heard what had happened, he said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid. Just have faith that she will be healed." When they arrived at the house, Jesus wouldn't let anyone go in with him except Peter, John, James, the little girl's father and mother. The house was filled with people weeping and wailing. But he said, "Don't stop the weeping. She isn't dead. She's only asleep." We're almost done, but the crowd laughed at him because they all knew she had died. Then Jesus took her by the hand and said in a loud voice, "My child, get up." And at that moment, her life returned, and she immediately stood up. Then Jesus told him to give her something to eat, kind of like Grandma's house, isn't it? As soon as you wake up, here you go, put something in your mouth. But anyway, Jesus told him to give her something to eat. Her parents were overwhelmed, but Jesus insisted that they not tell anyone what had happened. We got to pray. Dear God, we love you. We thank you. Lord, in the next few moments, God, help us to learn and help us to see through Jairus and through the woman, God, that you bring restoration in your life, God, but it comes, God, through what we do. It comes through us. And God, what does that mean? We're going to find out. But God, help us to just understand. God, be with me. God, I am not worthy to be up here, but you are. And God, you do you, because if I do me, it's not going to work. And God, I just pray, Lord, that you would take over everything about me. And that your message is told today. I ask you to be with clarity, boldness, and with grace. For we ask in your name. Amen. So here we are. We just read the story, and this is just right smack dab in the middle of Jesus' ministry. He just got done calming the storm. He actually just got done healing, casting demons out of someone. And so Jesus goes, and picture the scene here, guys. He's there, and you've got like a crowd of people just waiting on him. It's like as soon as he stepped out of the boat, there was a crowd of people just waiting on him. A couple years ago, I went to a George Strait concert, and Ronnie Dunn, who used to be with Brooks and Dunn, opened for him. And of course, everybody's there to see George Strait. It's supposed to be, at least, his last go around. And so everybody's just anticipation, and everybody loves Ronnie Dunn. We're singing the songs, and then he goes off, and then everybody like, this is it. This is the moment. This is the moment, and you can hear the crowd is chanting, George, George, George. All that stuff you do. And then you see this like silhouette of a person come up on stage, and it's Ronnie Dunn. And like the disappointment and the crowd, you can kind of just feel it. You know what I mean? And then he goes and he sings a couple extra songs, and then he goes back off, and then you see this next silhouette come up, and that's George Strait, and the place goes crazy. Everybody was such anticipation to see George Strait. That's kind of how it was. Everybody was such anticipation to see Jesus, because they had probably heard what he's done. But let me tell you the difference between Jairus and everybody else. Everybody else wanted to see Jesus. Jairus wanted Jesus to do something. Jairus was like, I'll do anything if you'll help me. There's a difference, folks. There's a difference between just Jesus in the area and anticipating Jesus and pursuing Jesus. Because as Jesus was in that town, because he was there doesn't mean everybody knew he was there. But the people anticipating, the people wanting to see Christ, they knew. And Jairus not only wanted to see Christ, but he had to fall to his knees and worship and say, I need you. Let me tell you something. You want 2008 to be better in 2017? Maybe we should fall to our feet and say, Jesus, I need you. It doesn't matter. I need to know that you're here. That's how you make your 2018 better in 2017. It's not because Jesus is here. It's not the same thing as being in the same vicinity of Jesus. It's not the same thing. But bowing down and saying, Jesus, I need you. That's when Jesus starts to work in your life. Because he's ready, because he knows that you're serious. And he's ready. And this is Jairus, guys. This is not some normal person. This is a person who is not supposed to need Jesus. He's a religious leader. Jesus was the Benny Hinn, the one who would touch people and be healed, but he's not real. You know what I'm saying? Jairus was not supposed to need Jesus. Because Jesus was just a cool preacher who did cool things. Imagine the humiliation that it was for him. Imagine, the Bible says that there's a crowd. Imagine people looking and saying, what's he doing? is he doing that? You know, sometimes going to Jesus can be tough because it means we got to share a lot of baggage we don't want to share. I mean, sometimes we have to humble ourselves. All the time. We have to humble ourselves. Say, God, I need that. Listen, there's a situation. I've got no answers. You're my only hope. That's where Jairus was. We got to picture that. Because it's important we understand that. That's exactly where Jairus was. A man who was not supposed to need Jesus, was not supposed to care that much that Jesus was in town. All of a sudden, the only person that Jairus wanted to see was Jesus. How's that in your life? How's that in your life? So Jairus, he falls on his knees. You know, the Bible says that one day every knee is going to bow. And here's what I know about this. It's not because Jesus is going to make sure you bow. He's not going to have a finger and point down and say, bow. It's no, we're going to see everything. We're going to see his glory. We're going to see everything that Jesus is. And guys, and our only hope and our only option is to bow and worship Jesus. Because that's what we're going to see. I kind of feel like that's where Jairus was. I really do. I kind of feel like that's where Jairus was. And he's like, my daughter is dying. They're like, we've tried everything. See, Jesus was not only Jairus' only hope, it was also his last hope. Because nothing else is working. Listen, you can go in your life, and if you want restoration, you can try a lot of things. But you're going to find that Jesus is your only hope. And if it's your last hope, that's okay. God still does what he does. But Jesus was Jairus' last hope in this world. So he goes, he's out of options, and as he goes, and everything indicates that Jesus was like, okay, let's go. Let's go. And then this woman comes along who doesn't stop the crowd, who doesn't try to stop everybody in their tracks. She's so desperate that all she wants to do is just not even grab, but just touch, just lay a finger on Jesus' clothes. How have we ever been that desperate for Christ? Where all we want to do, guys, we just want to reach out. And all we want to do is just touch him. Because we know if we touch him, that something is going to happen. Have we ever been that desperate for Christ to show up in our lives? Have we ever been that desperate for Christ to go and to heal our lives? Have we ever been that desperate for Christ for him to do something? You know why that woman was healed? Yes, Jesus was a big part of it, but Jesus is no magician. Her desperation and her faith made sure that she got healed. You want healing? You want restoration in your life? Where is your faith and desperation? Because that's going to be the difference. That's going to be the difference. And so she reaches out, and then all of a sudden Jesus says, stop. And I wonder what's going through Jairus' mind. It's like, dude, my daughter's dying. We don't have time to stop. We don't have time for this mess. Especially, listen, if she got healed, who cares? But I think Jesus taught Jairus through all this. I really do. I think it restored Jairus' faith. Well, maybe not restored, but I think it brought more faith to Jairus. Because Jairus like, if he can do that, what's he going to do to my daughter? Because that's where it comes from. Faith is where, and we're going to read, and we read that that's where that comes from, is faith. And so you go and stop, and Jesus like, who touched me? And everyone's like, I mean, you know that's the way it is. Like, hey, I didn't do that. You know, I mean, you just know that's how it was. You know, and Peter's like, Jesus, everybody touched you. You know, I mean, this swarming, this crowd, it's everywhere. It's pressing up against you. Everybody is touching you. He's like, no, this time it was different. This time it was different. Jesus is waiting for the moment in your life when you touch him that this time it's different. Jesus is waiting for that moment that when you finally reach out in desperation, this time it's different. And so he goes, it's different. And the woman who was unclean by every law, by the Mosaic law, was completely unclean. She couldn't be touched. She couldn't even, I mean, you couldn't look at her. You couldn't do anything. That means that if she was married, that she hadn't probably cooked a meal for her husband in 12 years. That means she probably hadn't slept in the same bed as her husband for 12 years. That means every chair she sat on, she had her own chair at the family gatherings because no one could sit in it. That's what that means. That means she was an outcast. That no one wanted to be around her, no one wanted to look at her because she was unclean. But yet, when she touched Jesus, it didn't make Jesus unclean. It made her clean. I don't care where you've been in your life. I don't care how unclean you think your life is. If you're looking for restoration in 2018, whatever, when you touch Jesus, you are clean. When you reach out and you pursue Jesus, you are clean. Jesus doesn't get fazed. He doesn't get fazed at all. And the woman who probably is scared to death right now because she probably touched people. You know what I mean? I mean, it was crowded. So all of a sudden you come from this idea that she's there and nobody maybe doesn't really know what's going on in her life, but now everybody's aware. And so when that woman is trembling, worship folks, we talked about it, trembling and bowing at the feet of Jesus. Because she's his only hope. Jesus, I can't say this enough today. Jesus is the only hope in your life. I don't care what other thing you put in your life. I don't care what you think you want to put in your life. That's the same thing. Jesus is your only hope. He's your only hope to get through situations. He's your only hope to eternal life. He's your only hope to restoration, to being clean again. You can go wherever you can read. I don't care how many books you read. I don't care how many. The only book, if you never pick up this book in your life, you will not get the cleanliness, you will not get the restoration that woman got. You won't get it. I'm just being honest. So the woman, and she's bowing, and she's trembling. And she explains everything. And you know, people are like, oh my gosh, did she touch me? Oh, and she touched Jesus. I mean, folks, this isn't some fantasy story. This is real life. This actually happened. So the emotions that we would feel are the same ones that other people probably felt. Jesus says, don't worry. I just want to let you know that your faith healed you. You're good to go. Imagine that. Guys, this was not some person who was blind and couldn't see. Guys, this was an unclean person. He's like, don't worry about it. You're good. Nobody's harmed. Just go. Are you looking for that in your life? Are you looking for Jesus to say, don't worry about it. You're good. And just go and live a peaceful life. I wonder what's going through Jairus' mind. I wonder what's going through Jairus' mind. And then maybe whatever faith he had probably got dashed, because the Bible says that when all this was going on, the messenger came and said, it's too late. Your daughter's just dead. So whatever just excitement and joy that made her like, man, this is a real God. It's like, he can't do this. I ain't never seen anybody do anything like this before. It's too late. And I think we have to look at something that I think is so important to the story, and I don't want to miss it, because I'm afraid that if we miss it, we'll miss out on what happens. There's a couple things we need to understand. Is that Jesus makes time for you. In the midst, when there was no time, Jesus made time for the woman. And because we know the ending. That means time is nothing to Jesus. You may think you're running out of time. Jesus is like, I don't care. I'm not done. All because Jerry's daughter was dead didn't mean he was done. He's like, I'm not done. And he showed compassion for the woman, for the most unclean person in the room, in the vicinity. Jesus showed compassion for her. I sure hope that's the God you serve. But if it's not, I guarantee that's the God you're looking for. I also want to point out this. It could have been very easy for Jairus to say, Jesus, it's too late. Let's go on your business. But they completed the journey. They still went to the house. As you may look for, we all need restoration. And as we look for that, guys, 2017 may have been the worst year of your life. But you completed the journey and you're here in 2018. Or tomorrow, you'll be here in 2018. And the journey can be long. And just like that journey with Jairus, I mean, it came with obstacles. It came with things that just got in the way of the end goal. But if you don't complete the journey in your life, you don't get to see the miracle. Think about that. If Jairus would have been like, listen, it's no good anymore, he doesn't get to see the miracle. He doesn't get to see Jesus work. You're looking for a miracle in your life, complete the journey that God has for you. And you're like, John, but why can't he just go, and why can't he just make it all happen? This is why. Because I really believe that as this journey through the moment Jairus fell at Jesus' feet to the moment was that Jairus' faith was getting stronger because he saw what Jesus did. And sometimes we go through journey, and sometimes we go through things that aren't very good, not because Jesus hates us, because Jesus knows this. Jesus knows that once we get to the end, you're going to believe and you're going to have faith in who he is. Because you're going to see him work and work. Guys, there's miracles before the miracle. Jesus is doing things in your life before he gets to what you want him to do. That's how he works. And as he does that, it's so cool because we get to see Jesus work. We get to see him do what he does. And he goes, and so they're at the house, and people were weeping and wailing, you know, and it was loud. And she's like, shut up. I mean, it really. And I thought what he did next was very interesting. He said, everybody get out. He didn't say, let me show you that you don't need to cry. He said, get out. Why did he do that? I'm not a biblical scholar, but this is what I believe. I believe as they were crying and laughing, the idea of Jairus' daughter being dead just got more and more real. You know what I'm saying? Like, she sees a body. And God, Jesus is like, I don't want any doubters in here. I don't want the doubters. Because I've got a man here who desperately needs hope. And you're just in the way. So get out. There are people in our lives who get away in the way of our hope. And I got to be honest, sometimes they need to get out of our lives. Because it's just the way it is, and it's the way this I know in my life. I should say the way it is for everyone. I know it is for my life. Sometimes I listen way too much to people who have no healing power than the people who do. Satan puts people in your life. He doesn't do it to make your life good. He doesn't do it to make sure you believe in Christ. He does it to make you doubt every little thing about him. And I really believe that was part of it. And so, everybody's out of the light. Everybody's out of the room. You say, get up. Give that girl something to eat. Something to eat. You see, when Jesus restores our life, he doesn't leave us on empty. And I love it because Jesus didn't just, okay, you're up, but you're still going to be sick for a couple days. She was well. She was well. You see, if you're looking for a restoration in your life, if you need that restoration in your life, you need that fresh start in your life. You need to know this, that when Jesus resurrects you, when he gives that restoration, guys, you're going to be well. You're not going to be feeling the effects of being sick. You need to know this, is that you're not going to be empty. You're going to be full. Because Jesus doesn't do things halfway. That's not how he works. Thank God. He doesn't do things halfway. He makes sure everything is done before you get to the end. What does this all mean? Let's wrap this up. I believe this. I believe, as you compare Jairus and the woman, I believe two things are important. One, the pursuit of Christ. Jairus left his dying daughter to be, and on hopes that this Jesus was real. Now, if you had a loved one that was dying, would you leave them on hopes that somebody might be real? After you've tried everything, you think, if this we all have people, our kids have a doctor, I pay this doctor a lot of money for them to be right. You know what I mean? So I'm going to trust him. You know what I'm saying? And if would you, I don't know if I would leave my dying kid if the doctor I trusted with my kid's life more than anything said there's no hope. If I had never even met the man, never met Jesus. All I did was heard stories of Jesus. And he sure hasn't raised anybody from the dead. But the pursuing of Christ made the difference. Because if he never pursued Christ, his daughter would be dead. This morning, do you need to pursue Christ? And sometimes, and Jairus fell at his feet, fell on his knees, said, God, I don't have anything else. I've got no more hope. You have to be it. You've got to be my only hope. You are my only hope. This is all I've got is you right now. You're not going to get restoration if you don't have that attitude. I'm just being honest. You can have the attitude like, I'll come to you until things get better. That's not how God works. Nothing in the Bible will say that's how God works. Read it front and back. I don't care. And same with the woman. She did the same thing. She pursued Christ. And their faith was the difference. He said to the woman, your faith has made you well. And he told Jairus, just have faith. Like I said, God's not some sort of magician. He works when we have faith. And let's be honest. When you see your dead daughter, I don't know how much faith you might have. But I wouldn't say a lot. So maybe Jairus didn't have all this ton of faith. But maybe he just had a little bit. The Bible does say this. Faith, the grain of a mustard seed. Can move mountains. Sean, there's a picture. Can you show that? It says getting a fresh start. Can you show that for me? Is it not on there?
It's there. It's just not popping up.
Oh boy. All right, that's okay. There it is. Okay. So it's kind of cool to see like flowers grow through concrete. You know what I mean? Because you think, how in the world can anything grow out of that? Especially something living like that. So I did some research, and And they said what happens is this, is when there's seeds or whatever down there, it looks for the crack. And then when it finds it, it goes towards it. And it begins to grow. I don't care how much concrete you have on your life, God can still plant your seeds. And when you look to the light, when you look for that crack, life can come out of you. That you can be living. That you can have restoration in your life. You can have that resurrection moment that Jairus' daughter had, where you are well and where you are full. That's what you can have. I don't know where you're at this point. I really don't. But let me ask you this. How desperate are you for Christ? You may know what your 2018 holds, and it may scare you to death. Because you may have known what your 2017 holds, and I don't know how I'm going to